Chairman Westerman. The gentleman from Idaho, Mr. Fulcher, is now recognized for his 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the panel for being here today. And I'd like to start with a question for Mr. Wright, or at least some dialogue, I hope. I come from the great state of Idaho, and we have approximately 34 million acres of federally controlled land in that state. We've got about 2 million people. So what that means is we really don't have a choice sometimes as to where the urban places are placed and how people live and where they live. And we really do have an insurance problem. The federal government is totally overwhelmed when it comes to forest management, and the policies that are in place have not allowed for wise management. And so many of our residential regions have no option when it comes to insurance. And I'd just like to get your feedback. What do we do? How do we mitigate that? Whether it be on the private side, on the federal side. Need some counsel, please.
As you know and have alluded to, so insurance is regulated by each state and territory. So 56 different insurance regimes are in place across the country. And you look in those elements, so your experiences are different than Wyoming, and they're different than Arizona.
Probably not a lot, actually. We probably have a lot of the same similar problems.
Similar problems, but how the insurance is regulated is different from state to state. Fundamentally, insurance on the property side is there to understand what the potential losses are and charge premiums so they can be there on a bad day and pay those claims. I do think we're in a point by which we have to collectively take on these risks. What is particularly hard with wildfire, which is different than some other pieces, is once it gets into a suburban neighborhood, it can move from structure to structure to structure very, very quickly. And you have very, very large losses for the insurance companies and the community.
But what about on the federal agency front? Is there some focus that we should be putting there? I mean, on the private side, I can understand whether, regardless of what the local regulation is.
Yeah. So I'll highlight.
Let me finish. A private insurance company is not going to want to take a risk if there's adjacent mismanaged land that puts them at risk.
So 2 important things that I think Fix Our Forests addresses. First of all, the fuel loads, those dead trees, the kinds of pieces there that can exacerbate the risk have to be addressed. That sits in your state primarily on federal lands. The second piece is when those actions took place, and Mr. Begich spoke about this, having that dashboard that says what mitigation actions took place, where have they been maintained, because the insurance industry needs to have visibility on those pieces. So much of that, it has its potential to be addressed by the Forest Service, by BLM, by others. The community as well as the insurance industry needs to have visibility on what's been done, as well as the flip side, what has not been done.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Muncy, I want to shift to you just for a moment here. Given your expertise, can you cite, from a Western state perspective, any models where federal land managers have had some success in prioritizing the urban versus rural, and how that gets managed? Is there any success stories that you can relay to that might be a good model?
Yes, sir. I'd specifically recommend you look at the Angeles National Forest. The chief one of that forest, Bobby Garcia, is performing at a very high level.
And I'm sorry, where was that?
His name is Bobby Garcia. He's the chief one of the Angeles National Forest. And what surprises me is he works in the same federal regulatory environment. He works with the same for the same bosses within the same budget. He works with the same lawsuits, yet he's able to get things done. And I think that he's an absolute success. I demonstrated in one of my photos how the bridge fire, which occurred in the Angeles National Forest, just east of where the Eaton fire would start months later. The fuel treatments on the bridge fire allowed us to limit that fire. That fire had exponential growth, 34,000 acres in one day, but when it hit this fuel-treated areas, the fire went to the ground. It was a low-intensity fire, and our firefighters were able to pick that up. I look at that as an absolute case study And I would be happy to send you a report that was developed by that forest on the effects of fuel treatment on large fires.
Mr. Muncy, I would greatly appreciate that. If we can make a note either through staff or directly, I would love to see it. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I yield back.
Could I just make a real quick comment?
Sure.